A journey to uncover Nazi gold hidden in the pyramids by aliens. Guys, just before we get into the video today, I want to make mention of a channel that I discovered. Someone emailed me, like they often do, and was like, Simon, will you check out my YouTube channel and tell me how I'm doing? And almost always, they're pretty bad. This one was incredible. It's called Skill Tree. It's basically about leveling up skills, and it's super entertaining. It's a great watch. It has way too few subscribers, hence why I'm plugging it here. Go check it out. Skill Tree, link below. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Blaze. This one, Operation Bernhard, the Nazi counterfeiting scheme to bomb Britain with banknotes. That sounds a whole lot better than the regular Nazi bombing that was going on of Britain. Thank you, Danny, for putting this script together. I'm, of course, your host, Simon. Let's jump in. What would you do if you ever found a banknote on the streets and nobody was looking? Nothing too heavy, maybe a 5 or a 20-pound note or the equivalent dollar bills. I'd take it. Like, even a 20. I believe, and I'm not sure, my knowledge of the law is quite out of date, but I'm pretty sure, at least in British law, that if the situation was that the person wouldn't reasonably expect it to be returned, that then it's not illegal for you to take it, if that makes any sense. And I think if I lost a 20-pound note, like out of my wallet, just dropped it on the street, or it came out of a pocket, unless the person is standing right behind me, I wouldn't really have any expectation for them to somehow track me down. The correct answer is, of course, that you'd pick it up and hand it into your local police station. Oh. However, that's frankly ridiculous. Yes, it is. But let's be honest about this, or to put it another way, let's be dishonest about this. But when you consider the trip to the station, the hanging about, the paperwork, and the odds of ever getting it back in the right hands, you're far more likely to take one last sneaky look around and then pocket the note, chalking it up to an incredibly rare moment of good fortune. Yeah, honestly, it's absolutely right. Even if it was like a €100 note on the floor, and I knew that I had to pick it up, take it into a police station, fill out all of the forms, and go through all of that crazy. I once accidentally bought stolen goods. I can't tell you what a massive hassle this was. And I felt like a criminal. And it wasn't like I bought it at a dodgy boot fair for an outrageously good price. I just bought something off eBay and it turned out to be stolen. It's a massive hassle. If that was the case, I would just leave it there and not touch it. Or if you're like my friend Matt, Danny's friend Matt, I love Danny's personal anecdotes, you could compromise and make a pledge to wait until you've collected £250 on the street before you hand it all in to the police station in one big lump sum. After 40 years on the planet, he's found £20 so far, so he's only got another £230 to go. It's a good plan. No, it's not. When he hands that in, who's it going to go to? Just like the police are going to have to work out the individual allocations for all. This makes no sense. But here's another question. What would you do if you woke up one morning to discover that the sky was raining banknotes? I don't know. I'd be fairly pleased. It may sound too far-fetched. There was that amazing viral video a few years back where the back came off like an armored car on the highway in the States, and money is flying everywhere and people are stopping and collecting it. I'm like, humans. But I would be right there. I'd be like, pull the over, get out, gather all the money. Because I'm a human and I love money.
And it's gone.
It may sound far-fetched to give any serious consideration, but it's something that very nearly happened over the landscape of Britain during the Second World War. And while the Nazis' dastardly plan changed course over the years, Operation Bernhard still ended up developing into a fascinating tale involving the greatest counterfeit scheme in history, a lake full of dumped notes, and a group of prisoners who miraculously avoided execution by Nazi soldiers who were following orders just a little too closely. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Normally the Nazis are like, no, I was just following the orders to kill all of the Jews. Therefore, I am innocent. No! Back in 1939, it was Arthur Nebe, the head of the Central Criminal Investigation Department of Nazi Germany, who first dreamed up the plan of bombarding Britain with its own banknotes, or to be more precise, bomb Britain with fake British banknotes. It wasn't an entirely unique idea. In fact, both Winston Churchill and Franklin D. Roosevelt had considered the strategy of producing counterfeit enemy currency, but their advisors at the time were strongly opposed to the move. I don't know, it seems like a pretty great idea, because if you dump enough of it, you're going to get hyperinflation inflation that's going to ruin an economy? It seems like an awesome idea. Yet it was a distinctly ambitious idea, tightly packed with more than a few bizarre ingredients. Nebe's original plan was to totally destabilize the British economy by producing £30 billion worth of fake British notes, which would be airdropped onto British soil by the Luftwaffe. The thinking behind the idea was that while some dutiful British citizens would hand in the fake money to the authorities, the majority of the population would pocket anything they found and pump it all into general circulation, effectively poisoning the British economy and bringing it to its knees through hyperinflation. Absolutely. I think this is why it will be so effective. Imagine just a bunch of money lands in your garden. You're gonna be like, well, that's mine, isn't it? I'm not entirely sure the reasoning stacks up. It's one thing to sneakily pick up a £5 note you find at a quiet bus stop on your way home from the chippy. It's quite another to run around the streets in full view of your proud countryfolk, blatantly pocketing the downpour of new free money that's raining down from the sky. Yeah, but it doesn't really matter, because everyone will be doing it. It'd be like, all right, Tom, how's it going? Yeah, get the money. Everyone will be doing it. It'd be fine. But whatever their reasoning, the Nazis were sticking to their plan, at least for now. It's worth noting that at this point, although the name Operation Bernhard is often associated with the first phase of the plan, that name would refer to a later revision of the idea. The first wild scheme went under the name Operation Andreas. Although Joseph Goebbels, the Reich Minister of Propaganda, dismissed the idea as grotesque. Really, Goebbels? This is what you find to be like. Mr. Goebbels, we have fantastic idea. What we want to do is get rid of all of the Jews by gassing them and burning them. And Goebbels is like, fantastic, this sounds like a fantastic idea. Very good, proceed. And then the same guy comes along later and is like, listen, Mr. Goebbels, what we want to do is dump a load of banknotes over Britain to hyperinflate and destabilize their economy, causing an economic crisis. And Goebbels is like, that's disgusting. It's like, all right, Goebbels, chill the out. However, Hitler officially gave it the thumbs up in late 1939. Hitler was up for anything. Kill the Jews. Sure. Hyperinflate the British economy. Sure. Hitler, right? It has to be said that the Brits were feeling a bit cocky about the security of their banknotes back then. The Bank of England felt that it would be impossible for anyone to copy their notes in such large quantities to such an expert degree. It's like, all right, Britain, chill out. They weren't that good. I've seen the notes from back in the day. Which, looking back, is a bit surprising. I should read these scripts ahead of time. As the British banknotes were a bit rubbish. The design hadn't changed much since 1855, 100 years. I swear they change the notes like every 5 years now. We just now got all plastic notes. Although the notes contained serial numbers, watermarks, and 150 other minor marks, which were often assumed to be printing glitches but were actually security measures, the notes, however, were still quite technologically simple. The Nazis decided to focus their efforts on the white fiver, as this had the largest circulation. A forgery unit was set up in Berlin in 1940 under the daily operational control of mathematician and codebreaker Albert Langer. It feels like he was underutilized. He'd be like, what are we working on today? Well, we're going to make the Enigma machine. What are we doing today? We're going to copy some banknotes. I feel like my speciality was better suited to the Enigma machine. Get the fuck! I feel like there's something about angry Germans which just works better than any other nationality.
Der Angriff Steiners war Befehl! Wer schickt Sie? Das hier ist Wagen! Sie meinen Befehl zu widersetzen!
After 7 months of toiling over the production of identical handmade paper, preparing identical printing plates, and replicating British serial number system, the team finally had a forgery with which they were relatively happy with. The most difficult part was reproducing the vignette of the Britannia figure on the reverse side of the note, and not everyone was convinced that they got the eyes quite right. But the project was deemed good to go. Langer claims that £3 million worth of fake fivers were produced during Operation Andreas, although expert historians claim that the figure was closer to about 500,000. It's like, yeah, we definitely made £3 million worth. Everyone's like, no, you didn't. Don't gloat, Langer. We know you're lying. Either way, it didn't matter, as they were never used, and the fate of these notes is unknown. Following a reshuffling of duties, Langer was taken off the project and the whole idea was put on ice for a while. However, the scheme was revived in 1942 under the orders of Heinrich Himmler, who placed SS Major Bernhard Krüger in charge of the revised plan. There's our name. As you might be able to guess from the name, this is where Operation Bernhard goes into full swing. The premise of the plan was still very much rooted in the idea of producing tons and tons of counterfeit British money, but they'd now quietly moved on from the idea of dropping the forgeries from aircraft over the landscape of Britain like special wartime gift voucher bonds. I'd like to think that this was partly because they realized the idea was quite silly. I don't think it's a silly idea, Danny. I think this is a pretty epic idea. But the official reason was that the Luftwaffe had suffered heavy losses by this time, and they didn't have enough planes to piss about on this kind of stuff. Anyway, the Nazis had an easier and possibly more effective plan now. They would use the forgeries to finance their own dodgy money laundering schemes and under-the-counter intelligence operations. Hell, the money's fake. Can you imagine the German government prints fake British money, then goes to like an exchange office and be like, "Hi, I'd like to exchange this British money." In the middle of the war, be like, "How are you getting so much British money?" Questions would be asked. Bernhard assembled a team of 140 Jewish concentration camp prisoners, because of course he did, who had been handpicked for their skills in engraving, printing, and draftsmanship. Operations were set up in special work areas in the Sachsenhausen concentration camp, where the prisoners were to find life very different to what they had become accustomed. For starters, they were treated with unusual courtesy and respect from the Nazis, including Bernhard himself. They were given cigarettes, a radio, even rations. Oh my god, they got food! How generous, Nazis! And even had their own ping pong table on which they would play with the guards. This is all fantastic, it's wonderful. They get food and cigarettes and a ping pong table and absolutely no freedom and are forced to do labor. The prisoners strongly suspected that they would almost certainly be killed after the operation was complete, to avoid any trace of evidence leading back to the forgery production. And they were right. That was exactly the plan. They found themselves facing a stark choice: work hard and fast to please their courteous captors, but accelerate the journey to their own graves, or try to drag out the project for as long as possible, but risk execution for sabotage. Fortunately, the second idea had some mileage. Bernhard was a mysterious figure, and it's not known for sure where he stood on the planned fate of his prisoners, but it's widely believed that he was silently complicit in the plan to stretch out the scheme for as long as possible, as he knew that he would be sent back to the front line as soon as the project was complete. You can just imagine this work environment. The Nazis are like, well, when we stop faking these notes, we're going to have to go fight a horrible war. And the Jews are like, when we stop making these notes, you f***ers are going to kill us. So they'll be like, how about we just play some ping pong? Still, they couldn't just sit around and play ping pong all day. Why not? In fact, they were kept quite busy. Between 1942 and 1945, the prisoners forged about £132 million of fake British money in various denominations. To put that in perspective, that's over £5 billion in today's money. That's a lot of money. At the time, it was more notes than the Bank of England held in all of their reserve vaults, and it would have been equal to about 15% of all genuine British currency in circulation. Good lord. It certainly would have been enough to cast deep suspicion on every British banknote of the day. Exactly how much money was ever used by the Nazis may never be known. Some of it was poured into money laundering operations, while some was used to pay off spies. Most notably, it's believed that around £100,000 of it was used to acquire information to free the Italian leader Benito Mussolini. But by 1945, Nazis were still sitting on big old piles of forged notes and figuring out exactly what to do with them. I hope they had them in a giant room and they played with them, like Scrooge McDuck. But as I'm sure you've already worked out, it was just a tad too late. The end of the war was looming, and spoiler alert, the Nazis didn't win. As the Allied forces advanced on Germany, the Nazis closed down production of the counterfeit notes. They packed up their tools and transported all the prisoners' equipment and forged notes to Austria. As predicted, an order was given to execute Bernhard's team of prisoners as soon as they arrived at the Ebensee concentration camp. However, the prisoners were split into 3 groups, and the truck transporting the final group to the camp broke down en route. The guards were forced to march this last group to the new camp on foot, which took 2 days. As the orders specifically stated that the prisoners should be executed together, the guards already at the camp waited until the arrival of the final group, and this delay proved to be crucial. By the time the final group arrived, they found that the guards at the camp had released the prisoners and fled the camp in fear of the advancing Allied army. Shrugging their shoulders in defeat, the guards of the final group did the same thing, and the Americans liberated the Ebensee camp the following day. The phrase, just following orders, is often used to lamely defend an act of atrocity, just as my example at the beginning of this video, but in this case, we should be thankful to the Nazi soldiers who were so determined to follow their orders to the letter. Thankful might be an overstatement there. So, what happened to all the forged notes? A lot of it was burned before the journey to Austria, but in a last act of desperation, all the rest was quickly dumped in Lake Toplitz in the Austrian Alps. Over the years, a few crates of these fake notes have been found during expeditions to uncover the lost Nazi gold. That sounds straight off, well, it would sound straight off the History Channel if it was like, a journey to uncover Nazi gold hidden in the pyramids by aliens. But it's still a mystery as to how much of it is lurking beneath the waters of Lake Toplitz. Of course, it's not really Nazi gold, and very probably not worth uncovering anyway. The Bank of England are unlikely to offer you an exchange in current currency if you wanted in one day with £150 million worth of these things. Although some of the found forgeries are still fetching pretty good prices on eBay. They wouldn't if all of the money was discovered. That would flood the market and destabilize it, like the economy. But considering the absurdity and the deviousness of the original plan to shower Britain with fake banknotes falling from the sky, it's perhaps fitting that most of the idea is now buried and probably lost forever at the bottom of a lake. This has been an episode of Business Blaze, Operation Bernhard. Thank you, Danny, for putting this together. If you enjoyed this one, smash the like button. If you disliked all my comments about Nazis, because this is YouTube, there are plenty Nazis in the comments, smash that dislike button, neo-Nazis, you know what to do. Also, I think that's all. Do check out that channel I mentioned, Skilltree, I'm going to link to it below. And thank you for watching.